Radhe Radhe. On Sunday, October 24th, 2021, Mummy and I are here to present a quick summary of today's Bhagavad Gita study session. Radhe Radhe, Mummy.
Radhe Radhe, Gagan. Yes, we had an interesting, blissful session today where we discussed verse number 2, 3, and 4 of chapter 4. So let's have a quick short summary of that.
Absolutely. So hopefully we can see on the screen now, as you said, Mummy, we covered chapter 4, verses 2, 3, and 4. Chapter 4, verse 2, we saw an appellation you pointed out to us. Parantapa.
Yes, Parantapa, appellation. Krishna uses this word for Arjun. And appellation is the word used for a person based on the person's qualities. And right here, Krishna is using Parantapa. That means the scorcher of foes.
Yes, that's right. And in fact, we will talk about this later, but the foes, who are those foes? The obvious ones are obviously the kings in the opposing army on the battlefield. But from a spiritual standpoint, there are different ones, some of which have been revealed. More will also come about in subsequent discussions. So we saw Sri Krishna, of course, explaining to Arjun that there is this tradition of passing on this science of yoga or divine wisdom from guru to disciple and so on. And then unfortunately, with that long passage of time and with what we see as Swamiji's commentary as material nature of the world and or insincere disciples, that chain can get broken. And so there's a blemished perspective, and this information then gets lost to the world. Would you like to add to that?
Well, Krishna tells himself that we get this knowledge, this wisdom in the descending process from the supreme authority to a guru, to a saint, and from the saint, it comes down to disciples. And here, it's very special thing that Swamiji tells us that he got this Bhagavad Gita wisdom from Sri Kripaluji Maharaj himself, who is the fifth original Jagat Guru. And Swamiji has been his disciple for very long. And that's why this Bhagavad Gita commentary, the Song of God by Swami Mukundananji, is so interesting and so easy to understand, as he has written based on his understanding, which was given to him by Jagat Guru Kripaluji Maharaj.
Absolutely. And I think we mentioned that we are truly blessed and privileged to be able to learn this from Swamiji and his Bhagavad Gita text. In chapter 4, verse 3, we see Sri Krishna telling Arjun that, of course, this is being revealed as this divine wisdom to Arjun for certain important reasons. Maybe, Mummy, you can elaborate on that?
Well, it's a very important reason and it's a very important qualification, Krishna says. And Arjun qualified for that. Arjun was Krishna's friend, no doubt, his cousin. But why Krishna chose him to give this knowledge? Because the biggest important word is devotee. That means Krishna says that you have to be a great devotee to get this grace of God. And through grace of God, we get the blessing from a guru who then reveals this knowledge to us. So we have to increase our bhakti devotion quotient. Bhakti quotient, we have to increase that. It is very, very important to get this real understanding of this knowledge and then slowly implement in our lives.
So I think I like what you said about, if you look at acronyms, BG, Bhagavad Gita, BQ, Bhakti Quotient. I'm going to keep that in mind. I hope everyone, as our participants, also do. And really, we're talking about, Swamiji's explanation of these different bhavs or sentiments as well. And we'll see them in future discussions as well. But we talked about the 5 sequentially higher sentiments or bhavs, starting with, of course, Shant Bhav, where you treat God as a king, working our way up from king to master, master to friend, friend to child, and then finally at the highest level, Madhurya Bhav, which is something associated with the Sakhas, Sakhis, the Gopis of Braj or Vrindavan. And that is really Madhurya Bhav, where it is treating God as our sole beloved. We'll see more explanations of that, of course, hopefully through videos as well along the way. But that is, again, something helpful that helps reiterate what I think, Mummy, you were saying about each of us being qualified to get this divine wisdom only when we are a devotee, which again, if we go back to chapter 4, verse 3, it actually shows over here that Sri Krishna told Arjun that it was because he was his devotee that this secret was being revealed to him. In fact, speaking of devotee or secret or other things, is there a word you would want us to learn today again, Mummy, in Sanskrit?
Yes, very important word, though it seems more like Hindi also and very common also. So it's going to be very easy for all of you to understand. And the word is parampara. Parampara means in a continuous tradition. So that is the tradition which Krishna tells us, that this knowledge is given to us in a descending order from the highest supreme authority to a guru, to a saint, and then certain conditions of devotion exist when they exist in us and the environment around us. Those are the conditions which make us open the guru's blessings. That is when the other day, just yesterday, I was watching a very short video from, there is one Swami Abdeshanandji, and he has in a very short video told, when this grihanata happens, grihanata means when you are ready to gain that knowledge. And when those conditions are there, it automatically Guru's blessing, Guru's grace flows on us, whereby we are able to get that wisdom and knowledge.
Very helpful to know there. Yep. And we ended off, of course, with chapter 4, verse 4, which was Arjun having a question, a genuine inquiry about Sri Krishna kind of being in his generation. In fact, as Mummy said, a friend and a cousin, yet Sri Krishna revealing to Arjun that he had instructed this science of yoga way back in the day. I think last week we talked about this, at least 120 million years ago, even much later, even much earlier perhaps. And that is what created the doubt or the query in Arjun's mind about how that was possible. So that lays the ground, as Swamiji writes in the commentary, for what will come up in future verses as an exposition on the divine dissension of God. Speaking of
I will actually say that is not a doubt. It's just that Arjun is very curious, and this is actually Leela of God himself to create that whole situation so that the knowledge which was, in between, it had like stopped or it was lost in between. So it's God's way of taking avatar, taking dissension on this earth, divine dissension, and how then God revealed this knowledge to Arjun so that through Arjun, he could pass it on to all of us, this whole world, this whole creation, and all of us ignorant souls to receive that knowledge through Arjun.
Yeah, true. And thanks for the correction there, because in class I did mention that this was not a doubt with any kind of skepticism, but it was a genuine question based on inquiry and curiosity. And so that will be revealed in upcoming verses. In fact, dissension reminds me, if I take us back to our quiz, Mummy, did you want to mention something on descending process? We did talk about that today. It was the question, I think it was the 5th question, what is the descending process of knowledge?
Yeah, so descending process of knowledge is that where a perfect authority on the knowledge, that is the supreme authority, God himself passes that knowledge to a guru, a great saint, and through them we normal human beings get that knowledge.
And again, here we mentioned that there are two important aspects. You mentioned one, which is being a perfect authority, God or the guru in this case. But for us as disciples, we need to bring something as well, which is we need to be people who wish to know that information. So that's an important aspect as well.
It's a very important aspect. And how do we get to that aspect? It's only when we increase our bhakti quotient, when we increase our devotion. Then God automatically blesses us and a guru appears in front of us, and through that guru, we get the knowledge.
Very true. Helpful to know there. Again, a reminder about our bhakti quotient. I know you mentioned parampara as the important Sanskrit word. I think for me, English, that word would be, the important word for today's class would be conduit. In fact, I think I got a little carried away with the French origin and said conduit, but it actually conduit in English. And I did describe that as either physically, it's a channel or a tunnel for things to go through. Metaphorically or in the abstract sense, it is a channel or a medium for which information might pass. And so I did also mention one lovely quotation by the theologian Daniel Waterland. Sacraments are, the means and the conduits by which he confers his graces upon all of us, just to paraphrase briefly. So again, happy to see that from a spiritual context. Conduit here being this medium or channel for conveying divine wisdom to all of us. Any final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts only. The biggest takeaway is devotion, the word devotion. Once we have devotion in us, automatically God will grace us with a right conduit so that we are graced with that knowledge.
Awesome. So with that, we come to the end of our summary for today's class session. We will send out this document with this video, of course, as always, and we do look forward to your participation in the next session. As we announced at the end, based on what information we find out about the 48-hour Akhand Kirtan for Diwali, we'll let you know early enough next week whether class is happening or not on Sunday, October 31st, 2021. And as of now, please assume it is happening, but we shall keep you posted by email and the WhatsApp group so that everyone is informed well ahead of time. Till then, Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you very much. And see you soon in our next session. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.